those critics who are so pessimistic about our economy, I say, don't be economic girly men.
Wow. They loved it there. He's got a new take on that quote now. He was speaking to Men's Health, their 30th anniversary issue, and he said, at the time, it felt like the right thing to do. It was in my gut. I improvised it. I called them girly men because they weren't willing to take risks. They were afraid of everything.
That has always been the Republican stance.
So you think he's
Trump just making it visible.
Girly men. He said, General want to do little things so that there's no risk involved, but it was short-sighted in the long term. It's better to say that because not say that because you want to work with them. So what he's saying is don't antagonize, but he's not apologizing for the term. Right.
No, he's not.
When you're reading the article, the way it comes across, it seems like he's apologizing for using that term. But he's not. That's not what he's apologizing for. He's just saying it's divisive and you don't want to be divisive. He's not saying the term is inappropriate, but the term has two consequences to me. One is saying girly man is weak, suggesting women are weak. That's number one. And number two, there's kind of an underlying homophobic aspect to the term. It's talking about men because there is a stereotype. I definitely take you. There is a stereotype.
Harvey's right. Harvey's right, by the way, because
I think the only thing that we disagree on is that I think it's a little bit more sexist.
I'm about to tell ya why Harvey was absolutely right. It was homophobic because it was the year 2004. It matters then.
In some way like a pejorative, or saying that if you are in any way feminine, that you don't have the guts or the gall or whatever like that.
So he could have said, this is wrong, but he could have said, you're acting like a girl, which is wrong to say, but that's the message he's trying to convey. Instead, he said, girly man, suggesting
Harvey is
something
right.
there.
Harvey is right because that man remembers the context of when Schwarzenegger said it. That was the same convention on the Democratic side where Obama first made his stamp on the national stage.
I think he's an incredible guy. But, look, I mean...
By the way, the same interview, Harvey, he also apologized for the Me Too stuff again. He says that he was the first person to really take ownership for all of the mistakes he made in terms of how he treated women before the Me Too movement really came to, became...
He was accused by some women in early 2000.
At least six women in 2003 accused him of inappropriate groping and going on movie sets and stuff.
I don't want to hijack this, but actually, let's go to Skype and then I'll hijack it. Delayed hijack.
Hi, Maria, North Las Vegas. I think there's so much to say, just not enough time. Bottom line, I do not feel he has any regrets, nor does he feel the comment was offensive. It's better to say that because you want to work with them. It's not an apology. It's simply an excuse.
I'm so sorry, Maria, for muting you, but that 2004 election, there was one issue. That was centered. That was a major issue. And it was the issue of equal rights for the LGBTQ movement. At that time, it wasn't. It was just LGBT. Like I said, this is off the top of my head here. You know what I mean? All I remember telling people that the biggest threat to America was Russia and Vladimir Putin, and not Syria and Iran like they were trying to make it out to seem. And John Kerry came out in support of equality for lesbian and gays. And yes, and Bush was opposed to it. That was a Republican stance. That was why Arnold Schwarzenegger made that comment. That's why he said it. That's why he crescendoed. He crescendoed to that point to make sure the phrase "girly man" get out there and sticks out there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm just saying, man. A lot of the things that happened in that election led to Obama becoming president 4 years later in 2008. And Obama saw that and took advantage of that. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I have quite literally been a historian of our times, and I still will be till the day I die. I hope it's not soon. I hope it's way, way later. It's like 125. What's up, y'all? Assalamu alaikum, people. I told y'all, man, I know TMZ started it. Some people might have a negative view of TMZ, but Harvey Levine has proven himself to be the intelligent attorney that he learned how to be, and his employees follow that mantra. They follow that dogma. You know what I mean? They're honest. They're radically honest. Even if it's about them, I'm just saying they find the truth, and that's it.
Happy. Who? What people? Oh, I got it. He wanted the hat removed to make himself happy. To make himself happy. You, Harvey, you liberal blank. I think the blank, you put stars in this? I have a feeling they wrote the word out. Am I correct? Yeah, they did. Reagan just blanked it out for you. Okay, taking a break. When we come back, you're going to see Lil Xan in a performance in Indianapolis that did not please a lot of people, flipping out in a food court.
If you would have told me there was a mixed race, half caste mulatto, ooh, that was some straight ethnic self-hating shit. But if you would have told me there was some rapper named Lil Xan that got tats all over his face, I would have told you, okay. See, that's where I get my pop culture news from. That's how I just found out TMZ Live existed like maybe 7 months ago. So, and I realized that that's a true way for me to get my, but I digress though.
I got a car, all on my phone, with a new app called Fair. Let me show you how that works. I want to.
Everything we did was scrutinized by the other side and the media for any trace of below-the-belt insinuations. That included the quote celebrity ad. Questions were raised about whether we used Paris Hilton and Britney Spears' image in the ad to appeal to prejudiced white vote fear of miscegenation, or if we had darkened Obama's skin in the photograph we used. Silly shit like that was tossed at us regularly. We didn't intend to play those games. We didn't want to play those games, and we didn't play those games. We didn't want to set the country back or undermine the social significance of Obama's candidacy. We took pains to stay clear of that stuff. We denounced anyone who resorted to it, and we were proud we did.
Center Mall, which is where he was performing, not singing though, not rapping. He was getting some Taco Bell, and apparently something went down with another customer, and then all hell broke loose.
Oh man.
Well, that's not pleasant. Rich, you're broke.
It's so played out. It's unclear really what started this fight, guys, but I mean, after his
That's some ignorant shit, dog. Go ahead. I don't know who you are, but that's why I don't know who you are, because you do ignorant shit like that. Get the fuck out of here. Nevertheless, we were frequently accused without evidence of racist insinuation or worse. Newsweek ran a cover story in May that didn't just imply, but openly assumed we will make or secretly support racist attacks on my opponent. The Obama campaign and reporters relying on Democratic opposition research regularly assailed members of my campaign staff, my donors, and supporters for their businesses and associations. But we were restrained from doing the same by our own and the media's insistence that we take extreme care to avoid the appearance of appealing to people's prejudices. Our surrogates were criticized for making fun of Obama's experience as a community organizer, which I sort of regret.
I mean, I kind of feel bad for her. She's been through it, and he's not really a threat to the country, so there's nothing else they can do to keep him in the country.
Welcome to the life of us immigrants.
At this point, is either reverse it an appeal or Trump can pardon him. It's interesting because of Trump's immigration policy, the pardon would be a tough one. Yeah. Here in this. And can we go back to Karen for a second? What's your friend?
Coco.
Coco?
Yeah?
Girl or boy?
Girl.
Girl? She's cute. She's very cute. Yeah, she's very, very cute. All right.
I
Okay,
know. Americans and their pets, yo. Gotta love it.
Interaction situation with the jury. You gotta learn your lessons sometimes, you know, especially when you're given the time, date, and location of where you're gonna be at with that much amount of jury on you, you know. And she already had a bad situation with that. I think everything needs to be cut out, period.
But if she had security, I mean, she can protect herself, right?
Yeah, well, she had security before.
No, they left. That's right. They left. I think she had no security when they robbed her. So as long as security sticks by her side, you're saying, go ahead and bling out. I mean, if she can, look, I mean, it's who she is. Okay, take it a break. When we come back, Chelsea Clinton, we got a better idea of who she is. I think she's learned a thing or two from mom and dad. We got her out and asked her a question, first about Halloween, and then about Donald Trump. And you're going to see how she reacted. Maybe she's running for office.
There's nothing wrong with and probably much that's admirable about the occupation, but our ridicule wasn't racist, as some allege. We were accused of racism for calling Bill Ayers, my opponent's early supporter and former member of the Weather Underground, a terrorist despite the fact that he was white and had been involved in bombings in New York City's police headquarters, the Pentagon and the US Capitol. When the housing markets crashed in the fall, and with it much of the global credit system, Democrats fixed the blame on George W. Bush and his heir apparent, me. That's politics. I would have done the same if I'd been them. When we responded by pointing out that the people who ran Fannie Mae, one of the institutions responsible for the housing market collapse, were all Obama supporters, including its CEO, Franklin Rain, we were accused of invoking race because Raines was black. It was the predicament we had to learn to operate within and not take personally. I didn't like it, of course, at all. But in only one instance did I take lasting offense at a false accusation. Citing reports that followed that racist insults were shouted from the crowd at some of my events, John Lewis, a personal hero of mine, accused our campaign of sowing hatred, compared me to George Wallace, and said that, like Wallace, we were creating the kind of political atmosphere that got 4 little girls killed in the Birmingham church. I couldn't believe it and I couldn't forgive it. I still can't. So I truly hope that you did before you pass away. I hope throughout this whole Trump bullshit, after you had penned this book, after this came out, that you did. I don't know, but that's something that you and only you are taking with you. So may you rest in perfect peace, Mr. McCain. That's all I can say at this point, sir. You know what I mean? My biggest predicament was my difficulty convincing voters I was an agent of change. That was our principal concern as we assembled a list of potential vice presidents that summer. I wanted to choose someone I respected and I wanted the choice to represent change. We had a list of names with 20 to 30 people.
Great day at the airport for Charlie Gone. You also got Chelsea Clinton. Now that is a double header.
Yeah. That is a hit for the cycle.
Chelsea spoke because this is a summer fruit case. A summer fruit? Charlie, during the summer, when you can't get anybody else, what's your favorite summer fruit? And they open up. So now that we're in fall, he can't do summer fruit anymore. So he had another tactic for somebody who doesn't speak. Here's what he did.
What are you going as for Halloween? I haven't decided. You haven't decided? What are you weighing up this week? Whatever my children want me to be. Oh, really? What's their favorite thing, like Buzz Lightyear and Woody, or? Oh, they're a little too young for that. Okay. Any plans for Halloween? Oh gosh, weeks away, not yet. Not yet? A lot of people thinking about going as Donald Trump.
Haha.
Scary thing you go as? Oh my goodness. They're gonna be like owls or lions or princesses. Very small. Thank you so much.
Yeah. See? See? That's a classy, yeah. Go Chelsea. Hey, I saw Miss her on some freaking my rock center. The short-lived 1 year, 2 year NBC failed experiment with Brian Williams. Now we're here. But yeah, though. That's wild. She said, oh my goodness, they're going to owls and lions and princesses. My biggest predicament was my difficulty convincing voters I was an agent of change. That was our principal concern as we assembled a list of potential vice presidents that summer. I wanted to choose someone I respected, and I wanted the choice to represent change. We had a list of names with 20 to 30 people. The lawyers vetting candidates for us, led by the able A.B. Culver House, a prominent Washington attorney, did a public record search for all of them, and several were removed from the list. I admit I did not give the attention they deserve to all the prospects who remained on the list. I gave most thought to people with whom I had an established relationship. I thought a lot about choosing Mitt Romney. He had been my most formidable opponent in the primaries, and is a smart, capable, and appealing candidate with expertise in issues where I was a little deficient. Tim Pawlenty was another successful blue state governor I got along well with. Mike Bloomberg, a friend, brilliant businessman, and innovative mayor, was on the list too. All the choices had some downsides. Had I asked Governor Romney to join the ticket, the Democrats would have greeted the decision by reminding voters of the attacks and recriminations we had exchanged during the primaries. That's standard practice when a nominee asks a rival to join the ticket. It's annoying, but it's fair, and it's a surmountable problem. Tim Pawlenty did not have much national name identification, which was fine. He would have been a fresh face. He had widespread appeal in Minnesota, and I liked him and his wife Mary a lot. He would be viewed as a safe conventional choice, solid on the merits but not an outsider or a credible change agent. Mike Bloomberg would be viewed as a change. He had an impressive record of accomplishment in New York, but one not always admired by conservatives, nor were his views on guns, abortion, and other social issues. Conservatives did not consider Mike to be a moderate Republican, or RINO, Republican in name only, an epithet often hurled at me. They viewed him as a liberal, along the lines of John Lindsay, a species of Republican that hasn't existed in any numbers for quite a while. Yeah, you ain't lie about that. I wasn't in America when most of those kind of Republicans kind of existed, you know what I mean? Alan Specter passed away maybe 7 years ago, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's the only one I can remember. It's in my time. They viewed his affiliation with the Republican Party as weak and opportunistic. Mike is smart, shrewd, and not given to posturing. When we informed him he was on the short list and asked if he would agree to be fully vetted, he responded with, "Are you sure about this?" I had met with several prospects under consideration and read vetting summaries for others. In May, I had visited a few of them to our place in northern Arizona for the weekend in the hope that a relaxed social setting among our family and friends would give me a better sense of their personalities. I did not like the idea of consulting, of conducting formal interviews, and I felt routine issue and background questions to the lawyers, and I left routine issues and background questions to the lawyers and staff. I did I did want to know, if I didn't already, what issues were their priorities, and I wanted to be confident they would share mine. I admired many of the candidates and I enjoyed the company of most of them. By late June, I had mentally culled a shorter list from the short list, consisting of 3 or 4 names. Each had appeal and I liked them all. But I kept coming back to one name that would have certainly represented change, although that wasn't the principal reason I wanted to pick him. Joe Lieberman and I shared the same worldview and concerns, and we were the best of friends. I trusted him completely and valued his counsel. He was no longer formally a Democrat, having won his last re-election as an independent, but he caucused with Senate Democrats, and he had been the Democratic vice presidential nominee in 2000. He had endorsed me in December when I wasn't the presumptive nominee or the favorite to win, when there was no advantage for him to risk his relationship with Democrats. Were Giotto joined the tickets, it would send a clear message of change. It would be an emphatic statement that I intended to govern collaboratively with an emphasis on problem solving, not politics, which in 2008 would have been very good politics. The more I thought about asking Joe, the more the idea felt right to me. Yo. I don't know why it is, I don't know how it is, but for the last few days I have been thinking about certain compromises that have been made. Like, this is some deep historical shit right here now. Like, if you want to grasp if you want to grasp maybe 40% of what I'm about to speak on, you should you should have already read We Were 8 Years in Power by Ta-Nehisi Coates. If you had, you will put two and two together and realize that every every so often in this country's political history and balance of power history, there has to be some deals have to be made by the two entities, by the two powers, you know what I mean? And the participants in those deals matter. The Missouri Compromise of 1820, FDR's deals that he had to make with southern states, Woodrow Wilson's concessions that he had to give up with southern states, JFK's concessions with southern states. You know what I mean? Even Lincoln was so. If Lincoln was not as strong-willed as he was, and if he wasn't as blessed as he was, he would not have achieved some of the few with the lesser degree of concessions compared to the other compromises that I just ran down. You know what I mean? But and the reason I bring that up, it seems like the Democratic body that is there right now does not have the backbone to go to bat for the poor and downtrodden, mostly minority in this country, that most definitely like the Republican Party is getting so strong right now to this point where the Democratic Party doesn't have the necessary strength in numbers, and the numbers they have are not enough to know what the suffering is, what's going on with the constituencies. You know what I mean? Most of the people in Congress right now, except for the ones who came in with the Obama wave from 2008 and 14 and 12 and all that, you know what I mean? Except for those ones, all of the other ones have been there way too long. You know what I mean? The Democratic Party right now needs to be strengthened and replaced along the way. Emily's List sent me he said these are some crucial stats on all 10 of our incumbent Senate women's races, plus how they voted on Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin voted no. Maria Cantwell of Washington voted no. Dianne Feinstein of California voted no. Kristen Gillibrand of New York voted no. Maisie Hirono of Hawaii voted no. Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota voted no. Claire McCaskill of Missouri voted no. Tina Smith of Minnesota voted no. Debbie Stabenow of Michigan voted no. Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts voted no. And three of them are in states that Trump won in 2016. So if you live in the States, you know you don't make more than $45,000-$50,000 a year. If you know you don't even got a job, but you're a citizen of this country, you call yourself a citizen of the United States of America, and you ain't never voted, even if you voted in the past and you're old enough to vote, you got a phone right now, you can register to vote, man. Hopefully the deadline hasn't arrived yet. But please, like, if you find a roadblock the first time, follow up. Try to see, it takes no time at all. I'm just saying, man, just go vote. And go vote for not Republicans. I'm just saying, I'm serious about that. I'm not bullshit you about that. You gotta get these crazy bald heads out of there. You know what I mean? But I digress though. This is an update from change.org. I'm sorry, I got distracted. And it is a petition update, and it asks your representative in Congress to co-sponsor the Health Equity and Accountability Act. It says, ask your representative in Congress to co-sponsor the Health Equity and Accountability Act. Kidney disease has a disproportionate impact on African Americans and people of Hispanic ethnicity. African Americans make up about 13% of the American public, but over 35% of the people on dialysis. Hispanics are almost 1.3 times more likely to get kidney disease than non-Hispanics. The Health Equity and Accountability Act, HR 5942, would help to ensure that at-risk populations have access to the health care they need and provide funds to better understand why the disease affects certain communities more than others. Please contact a representative and request that they co-sponsor the Health Equity and Accountability Act. In addition to funding for health care programs and research, the bill includes financing to train future physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals from ethnically and racially diverse backgrounds. Additionally, the bill would include resources for educating the current workforce on culturally and linguistically appropriate health services. The only way the current workforce can be educated on cultural and linguistically appropriate health services is by making sure the first part of this, that is funding for healthcare programs and research, includes finances to train future physician nurses from ethnically and racially diverse backgrounds. That has to happen for us. You know what I mean? It's one thing to pull a Starbucks move and like close all the dialysis clinics one day and train all your staff in what cultural and linguistic sensitive health services. You know what I mean? It's fine and dandy to do one day or two, but it's another thing to have the people that come from those communities that that the 35% of people on dialysis, which are African American, come from, or the 1.3 times is Hispanics, people that can relate to them, you know what I mean? The training has to be like, I'm saying this to the to the representatives that are going to be in charge of making sure these laws are enforced. People are going to go out and vote for it, I'm sure, you know what I mean? Hopefully we can get some people to call out, make sure that this is co-sponsored and passed out. But I digress though. At such a large percentage of kidney patients are from diverse backgrounds, the Health Equality and Accountability Act could assist in slowing the number of new cases of kidney failure. Okay. If you ain't did that yet, yeah, handle that. Oh man, talk to my man. Alright, Bernie Sanders said, today, as a result of your help, we have won a major victory for American workers. This morning, after a long campaign, Jeff Bezos of Amazon announced that the company will raise its minimum wage for all U.S. employees to $15 an hour, a move that will impact more than 350,000 full-time, part-time, and temporary workers. I want to thank the Amazon workers who work for us in this campaign, and more than 100,000 of you who signed a petition demanding that Bezos do exactly what he announced today. This is what happens when we stand up and fight for justice together. So I want to thank yada yada yada. It's time for Walmart and McDonald's and the food fast food industry, the airline industry, and the retail industry in general to stop paying their workers a living wage, at least $15 an hour. The American people are tired of having to subsidize profitable corporations who pay their workers wages that are so low that many of them are forced to go on food stamps, Medicaid, subsidized housing, and other federal programs. Time has got to change, and Mr. Bezos' decision today is a major step forward in that direction. When I talk about a political revolution, people standing up in their communities and at their workplace and fighting for change, I mean exactly what the Amazon workers and people everywhere did to achieve this victory. But this fight is far from over, because it is not just Amazon workers who deserve a $15 minimum wage. No worker in America should be forced to live in poverty. I am more convinced than ever after this morning's news that if we continue to fight for each other for economic, social, racial, and environmental justice, we will win. In solidarity, Bernie Sanders. We have a modest fundraising goal to hit this to support Bernie's re-election campaign and his work traveling the country to rally with progressive candidates. Will you make a $3 donation today? Nah, Bernie, not right now. It says paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders, not the billionaires. Awesome sauce. That was awesome. What's up, Bern? What you been up to, man? If Hillary would have won in 2016, right, and Democrats, it would have had, if the Democrats had a majority in the Senate and Hillary would have won, even if she hadn't won, Democrats would have had the majority in the Senate, Bernie was going to be in the committee. There was going to be a law passed that was going to make tuition for first 2 years of college free or something. Can't remember what it was specifically, but that part right there. My boy Michael Moore over here, of stupid white man fame, of dude where's my country fame. In my lifetime, I've had maybe only a dozen days like the one I've woken up to this morning. It's the day that a new film of mine will have its world premiere, and that is what will happen tonight for fun at 11/9 at the opening night kickoff of the Toronto International Film Festival, North America's premier film event. I am just hours away from that moment when the lights will dim, the curtain will rise, and my walk with all its revelation and warnings and dangerous ideas, well, dangerous politically to a president who has no intention of ever leaving office unless the Secret Service physically drags him out of there, will be shared with the world. This siren call of a movie is my contribution to ignite the fire underneath a despairing, dispirited public who must do its job and end the madness at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I have spent the better part of this year constructing a film that will not only explain how the shit we ended up with Trump, but how the fuck we ended up with Trump, but also help show us the way out. I must warn you, I do not pull any punches in the film. No one is paid, not even me. It is already been talked about as one of the most anticipated films of the fall, and just yesterday this wonderful piece was published in the Hollywood Reporter. Okay, Mike. This film is the moment of truth we've all needed for some time, and I truly believe its release nationwide on September 21st will be the real beginning of the end of Donald J. Trump, and I perhaps more importantly, the eventual end of the rotten, corrupt system that gave us Trump in the first place. I also believe we have, as we approach November 6th, a massive tsunami of women, young people, and people of color, i.e. two-thirds of the American public, who maybe, just maybe, will drown the whole stinking lot of them in a record number of ballots for a midterm election. But this will not happen on its own, and any early celebrations of victory like those that happened in 2016 are sure to keep the Republicans in power for years to come. Please, no, not 6 years of these people, man. Not 6 years, yeah, come on. Dumb Trump did not just fall from the sky. His rise to the presidency was not an aberration and should not have come as a shock. It was the logical end result of a long downward spiral in America that culminated in one of our most loathsome citizens conquering our most powerful office, one of our most deceptive minds commanding the bully pulpit. That man is not that smart, man. Stop giving him that much credit. He's an opportunist. I get it. He has money. When you have money your whole life, you can become a better opportunist as life goes on. You know what I mean? Just saying. Money makes this shit goes around, man. Come on. One of our most deceptive minds commanding the bully pulpit. One of our most fraudulent hucksters. There you go. Armed with the powers of the presidency to protect him. Ever since that fateful morning at 2:29 a.m. on 11/9/16, when the Associated Press officially called the election for our nation's new leader, we have been trying to save what's left of our democracy. This is not a film telling you what a jerk Donald Trump is, or what a buffoon Donald Trump is, or what a liar Donald Trump is. You already know all this. Everybody knows all this except for your conservative brother-in-law, whose mind you'll never be able to change. I told y'all can't change your mind. This is a white boy telling y'all can't change white people's mind. Racist Trump and white people's mind. They still think slavery is alive and slavery should be alive. They think slavery should have never ended. You ask them right now, if you ask a survey right now, people will honestly, if you promise people they will never find out what the results are, they will be honest. And they would say, yes, they wish slavery was still around. Get the fuck out of here. Don't believe me, just watch. Check this out. So I wouldn't waste your time or my time making that kind of film. And with all due respect to your conservative brother-in-law, we don't need him. We're the majority in this country. He's the minority. He knows it, and that's why he's so mad. I told you they'd be mad since Obama won, because they saw what would happen when 62% of the electoral vote. You know why it was only 62% that voted? Because a lot of white people decided to sit out. They didn't like McCain either. And they seriously was to go over that. They didn't give a fuck. Just like people were saying they didn't trust Hillary or Trump and people sat out. But it was different then because black folks came out. The black numbers were in the 80 percentiles and the 90 percentiles. You know what I mean? The 62%, that's the overall voting percentage. but the black portion of that number, of that 62%, like, yeah. Instead, my team and I have been on a mission to tell a much more important story. It's a story about hope and what comes after it. It's a story about deception and betrayal. It's a story about what happens to people when they've hit rock bottom. It's a story about who we are as a people and what it means to be an American in the era of dump truck. Finally, it's a story about where we might be heading as a society. My crew and I have moved heaven and earth to make sure we deliver this film to you in time to have an impact on this year's midterm elections. I'm excited to announce to you that Fahrenheit 11/9 will open in more movie theaters than any of my previous films, over 1,500 theaters across America. It will also be opening in dozens of countries around the world. We opened nationwide on September 24th, 45 days before the most important election in American history, and with voter registration still open nationwide. Thank you, Mike. Nah, man. Don't get me wrong, I knew exactly everything what Michael Morris about what he was going to say. Like I said, it's certain labels that I will always forever read. Michael Morris one of them. I was, 2001. I was a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, you know what I mean? Quite literally having my hands on a book titled Stupid White Man. What? Are you serious? Man, go ahead. Go ahead. Like, yeah, so I'm just saying, Michael Moore is Michael Moore, you know what I mean? His mind, like, now we're right here. What's up, Mikey? Right, hey, Mike, can I ask you a favor though? I haven't seen this movie yet, but I will. I'm just saying, man, things are tight, you know what I mean? I'm not eating like you are, you know what I mean? But still, and I know you know I'm not eating like you. You know I know we know that, but now we're right here, Mike. But long story short though, can y'all keep this movie in theaters like they used to keep movies in theaters back when, like, now what's that movie that combined Fahrenheit 9/11? Fahrenheit 9/11 came out. Not even that, when Bowling for Columbine came out. Remember when Bowling for Columbine came out? Movies used to be in theaters for like months before it ended up on TV or streaming and all. Like, can we just do that? Like, let's do that. Keep it in theaters for a minute, you know what I mean? Like, give it time to, like, January or some shit. I'm writing you today because I need your help. I've made a film that was meant to be seen on the big screen in a dark theater filled with 100 strangers. My hope is that you will experience the magic of cinema the way it was meant to be experienced in a movie theater. It's the best way to truly feel the big story I'm telling you. Any bit of anger, despair, or frustration you felt over the past few years must be channeled this fall into action. I am on my way to Toronto. I don't have to make a run for the border, a la The Handmaid's Tale. Yet, for tonight, I will just be shown a movie. Then on Monday night in Flint, I will hold the US premiere of Fahrenheit 11/9. After that, everybody will have the chance to see it. We are the majority, never forget that. But we need to rise up. That's the only way out of this mess. All my best, Michael Moore. Mike at michaelmoore.com. P.S. I'll bring you into the world premiere tonight via Facebook Live just before 11 p.m. Eastern. So I didn't really get involved in all that, but still, you know. Okay, this was from the ACLU in Maryland. This is probably passed already. Yep. This is awesome though. They had a Constitution Day focused on women's rights. All right, this is from the American Friends Service Committee from Miss Laura Magnani, and It says, Dear Alpha, I believe our communities are stronger when we recognize the humanity and dignity of all people, including those who have been involved with the criminal legal system. But in the US, poor people and people of color are incarcerated at vastly disproportionate rates than others. Many prisoners are held in solitary confinement or denied adequate medical care and educational opportunities. Few resources are invested in re-entry or community programs. We can do better than this. Tell Congress, act now to reduce mass incarceration. In my work at AFSC's program director for healing justice work in California, I've seen firsthand how long and arbitrary sentences further exacerbate the trauma that prison inflicts on people, families, and communities. The US population is 5% of the world's population, but accounts for about 25% of the world's people held in prisons. Incarceration as a one-size-fits-all punitive solution to crime is a proven failure, waste of scarce public funds, and a violent practice with far-reaching consequences. And there is broad agreement that mass incarceration is now making people safer. Congress and the administration can and should work together to pass substantive criminal legal reforms that reduce racial disparities and decrease sentence length overall. We urgently need more compassionate systems and reforms that include retroactive changes to sentencing. And it says, contact your representatives today, urge them to support substantive and retroactive sentencing reform. Congress and the administration are currently considering prison reforms, but the proposals so far offer only minor changes to incarcerated people's experience and do little to address the system and structures driving mass incarceration, such as extremely long, arbitrary sentences. The White House has expressed openness to sentencing reform, but we need your help to send a message to Congress to support sentencing reforms that are comprehensive and retroactive. I hope you will join me in telling Congress that we need meaningful change to the criminal legal system, including substantive and retroactive sentencing reform. We should also oppose provisions that increase or add new mandatory minimums that use discriminatory algorithms to determine who can apply to earn credits towards freedom, or that broadens the sphere of for-profit incarceration and state surveillance and control with electronic monitoring. Instead of paying for prisons, we should be investing in education, healthcare, mental health, and other social supports that create well-being and safety in communities. In solidarity, Laura Magnani, Director, California Healing Justice Program. This is awesome. Trying to tell you. This is awesome. This is from the ACLU of Maryland, right? This came through August 9th. It says, Dear Alpha, 25 people in Annapolis are working on a school funding formula that will impact Maryland public education for decades to come. They are the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, commonly referred to as the Carwan Commission. They are examining things like early childhood education, high-quality teachers, college and career readiness pathways, and more. But who are the students the Carwan Commission is shaping education policy for? It is important that we take into account who public education has consistently failed and how we can help them succeed. One of those groups is black male students. Dr. Ivory Tolston, national expert on educating students of color and building channels for post-secondary success, recently addressed the Carwan Commission on Race Equity and what black students need to succeed. The blog post outlines tangible recommendations for policymakers and community members. Dr. Tolson advocates for things like reducing suspensions and offering a culturally aligned and academically enriching curriculum, focusing on systemic solutions for the black and brown students and students with low-income low income will strengthen our public schools' ability to meet the needs of our students. Sincerely, ACLU of Maryland. Defend liberty, equality, and justice. Become a member. Yo, when I say those proposals were like that, let me see. Do I got time to throw this in there? Yeah. What is the proper PROPER period after every letter in the word? What is the proper way to educate black students? Author Nicole McCann, August the 2nd of 2018, aclu-maryland.org. Dr. Ivory Tosin addressed the Cowan Commission on what black students need to succeed. Dr. Ivory Tosin is a national expert on educating students of color and building channels for post-secondary success. President and CEO of the Quality Education for Minorities Network, QEM, and professor of counseling psychology at Howard University, Dr. Tosin is also the former head of the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities. Thanks to the efforts of ACLU of Maryland's Kim Humphrey, Esquire, Dr. Tosin recently addressed the Maryland Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, Cowan Commission, about racial equity in school funding and what it takes for black students to succeed. The Cowan decision makers should take action on Dr. Tosin's recommendations. Examining systemic inequities in schools. Back in 2008, many reports came out claiming to understand and analyze the problem with students' participation in schools, particularly black males. The reports pointed to dire consequences if we continue to have these gaps in education. Dr. Tosin wanted to get to the bottom of what it took for black students, males in particular, to achieve in school. Dr. Tosin has dedicated his career to creating, identifying, analyzing, and disseminating the best possible policy recommendations to help black students succeed in school. To do so, he lays out 3 important areas to understand. 1, how to look for the best information. 2, think about the standards we are using. 3, how to properly use research and data. In his groundbreaking report, Breaking Barriers, Dr. Tosin identified 4 primary factors that affect the ability for black males to succeed in school. 1, personal and emotional. 2, family. 3, social and environmental. And 4, school factors including diet. Ultimately, if a student isn't eating or sleeping well, feels unsafe in or outside of school, has overall negative perceptions of school, or experiences the compounding impact of several of those factors, they will have a harder time doing well in school. To help students structure themselves in a way that will help schools structure themselves in a way that will help black students, Dr. Tosin admits to naively thinking policymakers would embrace his findings since they were research-based. Instead, he was met with skepticism. Many people believed that the problem was so far out of their reach that his strategies seemed unreasonable. He developed a national reputation of myth-busters because he refused to let misinformation about black males continue to dominate the conversation. No, there are not more black men in prison than in college. No, 50% of black males are not dropping out of school. To him, it wasn't about a game of gotcha, but challenging school policymakers to see their headlines as shaping their position on issues in a way that undermine viable solutions. If you haven't seen the arc of the problem here, like, see, school policymakers, it's reports being sent to school policymakers. If we go out and vote and put the right school policymakers, like the Dr. Tolson's, let's say, like, you just go write his name in, like, or let's say he decides to run. I'm just saying, or put democratic policymakers in there who will listen to what intellectuals like this are proposing and putting forth. This is somebody who knows the issue because he had things in place that effectively prevented him from being one of those black males being left out and become the statistic. You know what I mean? If you get the gist of where I'm going out with it. But I digress. What information helps us create viable solutions? First, what does research show when black and brown children are set apart from other groups that have more resources? Dr. Tolson discovered that most of the research out there are achievement gap data that compared black males to other race groups. But when he looked at high achieving black males and compared them to other black males who were middle and low achieving, he started to see success factors. Thank you. No one ever looks at it from this angle. No one ever looks at it from this angle. Yes, some people might say that that's a limited scope, but no. Sometimes that positive connotation will play a bigger impact on the mind of a young black or brown child who might have a negative perception of school to start with. If he knows that yes, there are other black, that's why I said I was born and raised in a nation where I did not have to deal with having to compete with white people. So I had to compete with my own smart ass fellow black Africans. So when I got here, it wasn't no white people fucking with me forever. But at the same time though, I had personal distractions. Hey, listen man, I was 13 years old coming to a country where I saw electricity 24/7 a day. I could walk into a bathroom and take a shower under a sink and yeah, hot and cold water, like real talk. I'm just saying, real talk. I'm just saying, man, like you take things like that for granted till you don't have it forever, or you don't know what it is. You know what it is. You've seen it in movies, but you don't have it. You don't know. You know what I mean? Like a couch in the living room. You know what it is, but you might have been born and raised in a village where you ain't never had the opportunity to sit in one in your house. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. That wasn't the case with me. I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying, man. There are levels to this shit. Like I said at some point earlier, there are two types of African immigrants. Mainly, there are two types of immigrants in America. Period. You got the civilized ones who in their homeland had indoor plumbing, and the ones who did not have indoor plumbing. That was the difference. Indoor plumbing and outdoor plumbing. My bad. What information helps us create viable solutions? First, what does research show when black and brown children are set apart from other groups that have more resources? Dr. Tolson discovered that most of the research out there was achievements gap data that compared black males to other race groups. But when he looked at high achieving black males and compared them to other black males who were middle and low achieving, he started to see success factors. Yo, what was this brother name, yo? Alaji. What's up, Elijah? Yo, I hope you become the big success that you were on that ambitious path to, man. You know what I mean? I don't know, but yeah, you were gonna go. It was this brother from Ivory Coast, I think. Cote d'Ivoire, yeah. It was this brother from Ivory Coast. We were in high school and together. I was a year ahead of him, you know what I mean? So when he got to the school, he kind of viewed me as some kind of, alpha, was a man in time himself, alpha, like that smart African that most people fucked with, that he ain't had problems with too many people, I guess. And he, a couple years down the road, he was always coming at me trying throw shade at him having a better grade at certain classes than I did and shit like that. You know what I mean? And to me, like, and I just looked him off. At that time, I was thinking about that young 10th grade, 11th grade alpha had pussy and some other shit on his mind. I wasn't thinking about having no. Yeah, I ain't give a fuck about whether I had a B on Miss Miller's test and you had an A plus. I ain't give a fuck about that. I'm thinking about whether Nicole, she did back to little titties looking good as shit. Hey, I'm just saying, man, real talk. But long story short, though, yeah, man, it was what, like I said, man, like it's just every time I say these things because to say that every time I bring up like the topic or the context of black folks reading and voting and doing things like that, every time I say things about focusing in school and people always try to make it seem like, oh, I'm trying to turn it white and like as if white